Hi, welcome to Sandy Says. Canadian artists with brain disorders describe their creativity. My name is Sandy Dimiterchik, and I'm the Director of Community Engagement at Schizophrenia and Psychosis Action Alliance. We host free support groups for people diagnosed with schizophrenia-related disorders throughout the world, including 5 internationally. These groups are held face-to-face, by conference call, and by Zoom. Today, we will be talking with 2 writers from Canada. First, I would like to introduce Jathinder, an award-winning poet. Jathinder, please introduce yourself.
Hi there, my name is Jathinder Sandhu, and I'm also going by the name Ruby Diamond. That's my pen name, and I've been writing for several years for various magazines, a lot of psychiatric magazines, such as the West Coast Mental Health Network, the Networker, the Bulletin. I've also been on social justice websites and so forth, so I'm very interested in further continuing on with my writing and my poetry.
Great. Would you like to read some of your award-winning poetry? And you might need to speak up some, Jathinder.
Sure. I won the Sandy Cameron Memorial Writing Contest in poetry. And this is the poem that I wrote. It's called Pink Taffeta. Strange voices come climbing in her tiny bedroom decorated in pink taffeta. She hears the addicts outside the window, sees the disgust they have for themselves and the disgust she feels. I used to be amongst them, falling down my clothes, peeling off my body, my hair unwashed, standing smelling of urine. Her face is scarred from picking at the bugs under her skin. No teeth but a gaping hole. Straggly hair, too much makeup, holding herself in a stupor, flagging her next trick. Strange voices come climbing in her bedroom, decorated in pink taffeta. She falls over herself, grins at the Johns, is a spectacle for passengers on buses and cars and trucks that go swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Strange voices come climbing in her tiny bedroom decorated in pink taffeta. Her pimp struts the street, gold around his neck. He pulls her by the arm, smoking a cigar, looking malevolent. She played Barbie dolls, stripped them naked, showing Mama what Daddy did to her, but was greeted by a wall of silence. Now she cannot hold a monarch in her hand because strange voices come climbing in her tiny bedroom decorated in pink taffeta.
Wow, that was really great, Jathinder. Thank you so much for reading that. Um, how long did it take you to write that poem?
That poem actually was a kind of a gift that I got from my higher power. And some of my poems take about, just come out quite through my muse, but it took me not too long to write that poem. And some poems I work over and over again for several weeks before I get it right.
And how has your illness and treatment impacted your creativity and ability to write?
Well, I used to think that my medications really disrupted my ability to write. And I used to think that my creativity was also affected by my medications. But you know what? I don't believe that anymore. Because when I look at my history, the times where I made the most nonsense and the most worst writing I did was when I was off my medication. And when I was on the medication, I was in school. Since I've been regularly taking it, I practiced the art of writing on a regular basis, and I've been in and out of school at Cortland College taking creative writing classes, and I ended up basically creating my best work while I was on medication.
Wow, that's inspiring. Do you have a favorite author yourself?
Yes, I do. I love Sylvia Plath,
Oh yeah, the bell
the
jar,
the Bell
right.
Jar, and her poetry, and I love Antoine Artaud, who was a writer in the 1930s, and he was also an actor, and he was also mentally ill, and they treated his mental illness actually with heroin back
Hmm.
then, which is kind of
Wow.
interesting. But yeah, so he was one of my favorite poets.
Well, that's great. I'm glad you have role models to inspire you. What are your goals for the future?
What I would like to do is I would like to get my master's in creative writing and publish my own works in self-publish. Or if I don't self-publish, I'd like to get a publisher to publish my work. But I'm working on a memoir right now, and I'm also interested in writing a creative writing book. To I think you're the next guest that you have has already done this, but I'm not too sure. But I would like to be able to get my master's in creative writing and also go on to teach writing if that's possible.
That is awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing today. Now I'll introduce you to John Gerrard. Please introduce yourself.
Hey, my name is John Gerrard, and I've been active creatively pretty much most of my life. I started with acting, which led to music, and then the visual work, which I'm currently pretty engulfed in. Um, yeah, I released a book a few months ago called "We Make Clocks, Not Time," which is about my journey with psychosis and creativity and other mental health stuff.
And what have been some of the important factors in your recovery?
I think having a strong support system, which meant that my basic needs have been met. Um, Being sort of relentless in trying new medications until I found the right mix. Um, yeah, remembering that each day has its own struggles, and if I'm having a hard time one day, just remembering that the next one may always be better.
And what would you tell your younger self to make the journey easier?
Um, I think that there's nothing to be ashamed of, that I didn't choose to have psychosis, but I do have the power to deal with it. And yeah, just because you've experienced psychosis doesn't mean the label has to smother you. Um, there are many other things about me other than being mentally ill.
And I understand you're a peer support. I'm a peer support specialist here in Louisiana. I didn't know they had peer support in Canada. Jatinder, that might be something you
I am
might
a peer
be.
support worker too.
You're a peer support too. Okay.
Oh, great.
Well then I'll ask both of you. John first. Why is peer support so powerful?
Um, I think when we see when we have someone who can come alongside us, as opposed to the hierarchy that doctors, I think doctors are really important, but I think peer support is a way of kind of seeing yourself in other people, and that can be really powerful.
Jatinder, why is peer support so powerful to you?
I agree with the fact that when you've experienced something, I think experience is the greatest teacher. And when you've experienced mental illness and you can basically relate much better with other people and also who are suffering from the same diagnosis. And I think that basically because they've been there, you have more there's also less of a hierarchy involved in with doctors. For instance, with doctor, you have that professional hierarchy, and you won't open up quite as much with a doctor as you might with a peer support worker because they've been there and they know what they're talking about because of their experience. And
Mm-hmm.
so just having that, knowing that you're talking to somebody who is is has experiences the same as you, and they know what it's like to be on medication because they've experienced it. They know what it's like to be in the hospital, a mental hospital. How it is, the stigma attached to mental illness. I mean, there's so much that a doctor does not have to worry about stigma attached to himself, you know?
Yeah, and you brought up stigma. John, why do you think stigma is so damaging?
I think as it isolates us from our community, it fosters shame, makes you feel like you don't deserve to be well and that you're fundamentally broken. Um, yeah, there's that Brene Brown quote where guilt is I've done something wrong and shame is I am something wrong. So with stigma, we feel like we're defective, which is untrue.
Yeah, and I had the opportunity to read your book, John. We Make Clocks Not Time. I really enjoyed it. I don't know if you've heard there's this virtual reality game slash film called Goliath.
Oh,
Um,
okay. No, I haven't.
by an organization called Games for Change or distributed through them. I had the opportunity to try out virtual reality for the first time with this thing, and at the very end they talk about what is reality, and it kind of reminded me of your book. You touch on a lot of philosophical points too, in addition to sharing about your own experience. So what is the most important point you want to get across with your book?
I think just that you don't have to be ashamed if you've been psychotic. Um, yeah, and that I guess we both discover and create ourselves, um, which is one of my favorite things to kind of think about.
And how has your illness and treatment impacted your creativity and ability to make art and writings?
Um, yeah, that's an interesting question. I'm not sure if what I've made is despite or because of my illness sometimes. It's probably a complicated mix of the two. I know that I do my best work when I'm sober and well, but I've also channeled some of the negative energy in what I think is a more positive way by making art.
And what are your goals for the future, John?
I'd like to keep going with my visual work and maybe take part in some more group shows outside of Calgary, as well as get involved with public art. That would be great.
And do you either of y'all have questions for each other before we close?
Um, I have a question. The art that's displayed behind you, that was done recently, or was all those older works, and were they done while you were um in uh under care, or was that some other time?
These are about a month old, um, and I was yeah experiencing some mild psychosis when I made them, or maybe a better way of putting it is experiencing an altered state. I like what you said about the work being a gift from your higher power. Like I feel very connected to something bigger than myself when I paint. Um, yeah, I hope that answers your question.
And
Yes,
you actually, oh,
very
sorry,
nice.
Jathinder, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I'm
And,
finished.
and and John, you brought that up in your book, about what is art and what do we call the end result, right? Because you talked about that was really interesting to me about what the purpose of art, I guess, is.
Yeah, I think it's fascinating how like if I think when we call something psychotic, we're calling it dysfunctional, right? And so it doesn't I don't sometimes I wonder if we need a new word for whatever is I mean it's almost like there's something before a psychosis and spirituality and it could lead to one or the other, but I'm still in the early stages of figuring it out.
Well, thank you both for being here today. Thanks for joining us again for Sandy Says. Please subscribe to the Schizophrenia and Psychosis Action Alliance YouTube channel so you don't miss a video. Bye.